Knock, knock. Who's there? Heard. Heard who? Heard you were lonely. Can I come in? Why aren't you laughing? It's funny. I'm Jovial Bob Stein. Luis and I have been watching a lot of Christmas specials because it's that time of year. We've put our tree up. You can tell we've made a lot of progress with our tree. So far, it's just a tree. And eventually we're going to decorate it. We have some eggnog. I'm reading a Christmas book, Let It Snow. It has short stories by Maureen Johnson, John Green, and Lauren Miracle. I've read things by Maureen Johnson and John Green, obviously, before, but I haven't read anything by Lauren Miracle, so 'tis the season. Also, her last name is Miracle. I don't think it's really Miracle. That'd be a miracle if it was. But anyway, so far I'm reading The Jubilee Express by Maureen Johnson, and I really like it, especially when I started reading it on the train with my boyfriend, and it takes place on the train with a guy. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about Christmas specials. One thing I've noticed about Christmas specials, a lot of them, Santa is an asshole. Like in Rudolph, Santa's he's practically the antagonist of that story. He tells Donner that he should be disappointed and he should be ashamed of himself for having a son who has a red nose. And he leans back in his chair and is looking at his watch while the elves are singing him a nice little Christmas song. He's rude to his wife. He's just a jerk. Then you have things like 'Twas the Night, I think is what it's called. It's a bunch of mice, and there's a clock made for Santa, because Santa gets a letter from somebody that says, "We don't believe in you anymore." So Santa's just well, nope, not going to your town. It's you got one letter of criticism. It's a little extreme. Then you have The Year Without a Santa Claus, where Santa's people don't believe in me anymore, so screw them. I'm gonna not do Christmas this year. And the difference with that one is he's legitimately sick, so it's yeah, he does deserve to take the day off if he's really feeling sick. I also think it's funny because Mrs. Claus puts on his suit and does a whole little song about how she could be Santa and she could nobody would know, she could just take his place. And then she shows the two elves, "Look at me, I'm dressed like Santa." And they're "Mrs. Claus," and she's "No good, right?" And puts his coat on a chair, and then it's never mentioned again. Even though she would have been fine, she could have taken his place for a year, and that would have given him the day off without making everybody upset. The Grinch. The thing that's interesting about the Grinch is there's never Santa. He pretends to be Santa, he dresses up like Santa, and carries out all of the things that Santa does, but in reverse. He takes everything away. But then it turns out that you don't need presents or decorations or Santa to enjoy the season and hold hands and just be happy to be together. And that sort of love is what Christmas is supposed to really be all about. And the Grinch realizes that, and he's "Oh," and then he gives everything back because he realizes it's just the time to be nice to everybody, which is a little weird because he's the Grinch. So he just suddenly is "Oh, you're supposed to be just nice to people? It's not presents and stuff? Oh, well, I can get behind being nice to people." But he's the Grinch. It is a little weird. That special kind of teaches children. It's not about the illusion of this big fat guy coming into your house while you're sleeping and giving you presents. It's more about being loving towards your fellow man. I don't understand why Santa is a jerk in a lot of the specials, and then in the special he's not in, it's actually nicer. Maybe we don't need Santa. Maybe Santa should not be a thing that we tell kids about. Maybe we should just tell kids the moral of the Grinch, and that would make things easier, because then we wouldn't have to have a point in their life where it's you know what, we've been lying to you. Well, it needs work. I have to go.